Welcome, viewers, to this special edition of the It Depends podcast. This is the second in the series of two mega conferences that I attended in June of 2025. The first week was a Snowflake Summit, and the second week, and what is the topic of this episode, is the Databricks Data plus AI Summit. Both were took place in San Francisco. Phenomenal new announcements that came out. You will notice when we go through the announcements how similar both the companies are. They are both going down the same track, but they're taking a different approach. Snowflake has something they call Snowflake Data and AI Cloud. Databricks is product is called Data Intelligence Platform. And you can see here, we will be spending a lot of time today talking about Lakehouse, which sits on top of Unity Catalog, and then table formats like Delta and Iceberg. We will talk about the various data warehouse, data engineering, AI products that you see on top. So we will cover all of this, but we will cover all of this in a different format, not this using the Databricks picture here. But before we do that, what we have started observing is that we are living in these excruciating times where some large companies are adding more and more functionality at the cost of small independent uh, players. We are literally coming out of this modern data stack time when there were just way too many different products for different micro specialized categories. And now we are seeing a sort of a rebundling of data and AI capabilities. So let's talk about what's going on in this market, and then we will go in and look at each of the announcements. I have categorized what is going on in the space across these five different categories. The first one that I want to talk about is cloud hyperscalers, and I'm saying they have a home field advantage. If you are in AWS, and you've got your data on S3, you use Redshift, and you use a plethora of other products, you now have an opportunity to consolidate on something called SageMaker Lakehouse, which uses, in addition of S3 tables, SageMaker Catalog, in addition to Glue Catalog, it's integrated with Bedrock and has zero ETL federated connectors to other AWS data sources and even third-party data sources. Same thing if you're in Google Cloud, you can use a combination of BigQuery, BigLake, Vertex, all with Gemini models built in. If you are in Microsoft, you can use Microsoft Fabric, which means you don't have to use PaaS products like Azure Data Factory, Synapse, Azure Databricks, Power BI. It's all in one package. So this is where the cloud providers are heading in giving you an integrated and a comprehensive solution so you stay 100% on their platform. But we know that most organizations are no longer on just a single cloud. So they could be on multiple clouds. That is where the second category of these data and AI stalwarts come in the picture. The ones I include in this category are only two, Snowflake and Databricks. They basically say we give you the same functionality that the cloud providers give you, except we span all the different cloud providers. So this gives us this unique advantage where you're not locked into a single cloud provider. You can basically use our product. Now, point to note here is that a lot of what they're doing is all built on a lot of open standards like Iceberg and Parquet file formats. So there's a lot of interoperability that is already possible. Enter the third category, enterprise software giants. These are hybrid titans. These are companies like IBM, Cloudera, Oracle, Click. These companies started during the on-premises days For example, IBM bought Redshift. They bought Red Hat, and with that they got OpenShift, so they get some pretty solid on-premises capabilities. Cloudera, same thing for them. So they are saying that we give you the same functionality. For example, IBM has watsonx.data, watsonx.ai, watsonx.governance, and orchestration, agentic capabilities, but it works on data that is spread across on premises and in the cloud. We know more than 50% of the data, some say even 80% of data is still on premises. So they bring that advantage to bear. The fourth category, application first platform, this is where things get very interesting. Now, these are the players that have made a mark in some application aspect. Salesforce is known for CRM. ServiceNow is known for ITSM, like tickets, trouble tickets, and all that. SAP is known for ERP. But they are all riding to iceberg, which means they are now wanting to be your system of intelligence. And that is why you see a lot of M&As going on. For example, ServiceNow bought Informatica. They already owned Tableau and MuleSoft, Slack, and a few other things. So now they've got your business logic also owned by Salesforce. So they want the enterprise data to remain within the Salesforce data cloud. Same thing for ServiceNow. They bought data.world, which is a fine data catalog provider, and with that, they get data catalog capabilities which they were lacking. The last category is emerging platform contenders. These are, relatively speaking, smaller vendors, but they have their own specialties. For example, Confluent, it's known for data streaming, but with Tableflow, they also write to Iceberg, and they also would like to bring the workloads into Confluent. Fivetran is on a smaller scale, but Palantir, which creates these bespoke applications mostly in the government and very high security space, are also wanting to get into this space, as are other companies like Celonis, which is coming from the process mining space. So where does all of this leave small independent players? Well, a lot of them are waiting to get acquired at this point. Uh, and every time, and you will see as we go through Databricks announcements and even with Snowflake, there are a lot of small independent players who feel that their moat has been encroached, and now they need to find a new and a different moat to compete with these platforms that are coming into existence. So with that, let's go and look at what was new at Data and AI Summit in June of 2025. We will start with the first category, which is platform. In the platform, you see something, the first thing that you see is called free edition. This is $100 million investment from Databricks with a lot of partnerships with university, where they want more and more people to use their platform freely. Not only is it no cost, but you don't even need to put in your credit card. A lot of us have tried these free trials from other providers like cloud providers, only to find out that after you have gotten your certification and you turn everything off, you're still getting billed for nitty-gritty service here and there. And it's so Databricks is saying that, sorry, we don't want to be in that game. We are giving it to you free for life. A lot of free trials are time bound, but this one is free for life. So that's amazing generosity, but it comes with limitations. This is not meant for you to run your production workloads. It is meant for you to learn the platform, do hands-on exercises, but it comes with limitations, number of jobs you can run, the duration, the resources basically are constrained. Also, if you don't use the free edition for prolonged periods of time, then Databricks may just kill that instance. No SLAs, no support. So that is a free edition which Databricks launched. The second thing you see on this list is called Databricks One. For years now, we have heard this refrain that Snowflake is amazing when it comes to the user experience, but in Databricks, you need to have some technical skills to be able to use the platform. Databricks is responding to that by saying that now we have a new user interface, visual drag and drop with AI conversational assistant called Genie and powered by Gen AI, so a lot of natural language support, and it is meant for business users. So you don't have to go learn different products. You get one user interface called Databricks One. Business users can now be empowered to do the tasks that data engineers and data scientists used to do. And that is a new announcement this year. The third one falls under a slew of performance enhancements. Databricks SQL, for instance, which we will see once we get to that section, is faster query execution. There are improvements all throughout their product. One of them is called Project Lightspeed, which may be an internal name for now, but this is specifically geared to speed up the lower the latency of structured Spark streaming. Structured streaming data is becoming first-class citizen of data platforms these days, and we see this across many different players. A lot of analytic companies, they actually want to be the back end even for your transactional operational systems. For that, they need very low latency databases. And one of the things is that in Project Lightspeed is that the latency for structured Spark streaming is now down to 300 milliseconds, which is the time it takes to blink your eyes. The last thing that I want to talk about here in platform area is the SAP partnership. SAP is the giant in the ERP space. Almost 90% of Fortune 2000 companies use SAP as a ERP platform. What has been introduced is a bidirectional integration between SAP and Databricks. For example, you can go to SAP Business Development Cloud, BDC, and you can go to the portal within 5 seconds. You can instantiate a Databricks cluster. Once you have this cluster, you can start working on the SAP data inside Databricks, not by making a copy. So they're removing this whole data replication, data silo problem, and they are giving zero copy integration. With zero copy, you get a view, a copy, you get a view into the Databricks data. In fact, not just the data, even the metadata, the business logic is replicated into Unity Catalog. So through Unity Catalog, you can start doing your data engineering task, your data science task on SAP data inside the portal using Databricks. But if you don't want to go this route, it's bidirectional, which means that you can go into Databricks Lakehouse. They are making available connectors to SAP, so you can bring SAP data into the Lakehouse. You can join it with data that sits in other third-party providers like Salesforce or Oracle or Teradata, and you can join it and you can do your data engineering, your business, your dashboards, whatever use cases you have inside Databricks Lakehouse. So that is a bidirectional integration between SAP and Databricks. So with that, let's move on to some super exciting new developments that we witnessed at the summit. The first one is something that we've already talked about a little bit, which is support for a transactional database inside of Databricks. And if you thought Lakehouse was, you were still getting used to the term Lakehouse, well, get ready for a bunch of new terms. The first one we are seeing is called LakeBase. LakeBase is a combination of a data lake at the bottom with a database on top. That database comes from Databricks acquisition of Neon, which is a serverless PostgreSQL. Neon is actually created by the founder of a company that was called MemSQL, and today it's an HTAP database called Single Store. Nikita left Single Store, and Single Store, by the way, is MySQL. He started re-architecting Postgres, and he did a number of very interesting things in the product. The first thing he did was he made it serverless. The second thing he did was he disaggregated compute and store. So the storage can be on an object store. Compute clusters are Postgres compatible and they're ephemeral in nature. And then he added some other interesting things like the instant startup time is down to 5 seconds. Uh, Branching capabilities where if you are, let's say, vibe coding and you want and use something like Replit, for example, Replit uses Neon as a database, you get an instance of Postgres where it can store all of your particular details, configuration, context, state, all of that. And then if you decide that you have multiple versions of your vibe coding and you want to discard some of the versions, that instance just goes away. So this is what attracted Databricks into acquiring Neon. And by doing this, they basically one of the reasons also was because 80% of Neon instances are being generated by agents. And if you're going to go into the agentic arena, then Neon seems to be a good database. This is a very forward-looking use case where we are thinking how a Postgres database could be the backend for agents. And as you know, there'll be multiple agents in an organization, so there'll be multiple small instances. The other more traditional use case is the OLTP use case, which is the transactional basis or a database for transactional applications like CRM, ERP, ticketing, banking, any of these systems. They use mostly an OLTP row-based database behind the scenes. So that seems to be the main use case for Snowflake. So once again, we are going to see how Snowflake and Databricks made very similar moves this June 2025. And this is one example where both of them went into the OLTP space. So with that, let's move on to the next topic. Here we are talking about data engineering and we're talking about LakeFlow. So LakeFlow is a product that was introduced in June of 2024. So last year, it's 1 year old. LakeFlow is the data engineering tool for Databricks. Let's talk before we go into LakeFlow. Let's also look at how similar Snowflake's announcements were this year, because Snowflake bought a company called Datavolo and they launched something called OpenFlow. OpenFlow, LakeFlow, even the names are very similar. So they're on the same in the same direction. But what was LakeFlow when it was launched last year? It consists of three components. The first one is called Connect. The second one is Pipeline, and the third one is Jobs. Connect is built-in connectors for a number of data sources. These data sources could be other databases from where you want to do ETL, extract data from, and they could also be from business applications, also from data storage like SharePoint, S3, and so on. So that's a connect piece. The second piece is pipeline. Pipeline is where you use SQL or Python, you write your data transformation code, and then finally the third piece is jobs, where you do the orchestration, it does data quality checks, it monitors the health of the pipeline, retries, and makes sure everything is working correctly. What's new this year? Two new things. The second component, which is LakeFlow pipeline, has been replaced by something called declarative pipeline. Fascinating. What declarative pipeline is doing is it's saying that, as the name suggests, data engineers should not have to specify how they want a certain job or transformation to be done. They should just specify, this is what I want. Automatically, LakeFlow will take your request. It will understand what are the subtasks that need to run, in which order should they run, write the lineage to Unity catalog, execute your task with all the guardrails, such as retries, monitor the health, and you do all of that is automated behind the scenes. Automation has been a massive common theme in this conference. So declarative pipelines automates the data engineering task where the end user is simply specifying what transformation they want, and then the system figures out all the details. The second thing that you also see in this list is something called LakeFlow Designer. LakeFlow Designer is the natural language interface or the visual no code, low code, drag and drop interface on top of declarative pipelines. So now you don't even have to tell what it does. Basically, you use drag and drop. You say this, you draw it out. You say this is the transformation I want. Behind the scenes, it is going to kick off declarative pipelines. It is still going to create your SQL or Python code, but the front end becomes more natural language centric. So that is LakeFlow Designer. LakeFlow Designer, we got a demo of this product. It is soon to go into private preview, and it joins a very robust ecosystem of ETL players inside of the Databricks ecosystem. Some of the ones that come to my mind the most are three: Prophecy, DBT, and SQL Mesh. These are trying to do similar tasks what LakeFlow Designer is doing. But then there are also other long established products like Informatica, Matillion, ClickView, or Click Talent, and a few startups in this space. That takes us to the next category. This is a category for data warehouse, which is called Databricks SQL. Databricks SQL has been around since 2021, so it's about 4 years old now. They already have over 12,000 customers. The first set of announcements were pertaining to some benchmark numbers, performance enhancements. We talked about some of it when we talked about platform. For example, the latest version of Databricks SQL is 5 times faster than the first iteration that was introduced. But here comes a new term for you, Lake Bridge. So you saw LakeBase, now get used to Lake Bridge. Lake Bridge is the data migration tool, free of cost and open source from Databricks. Again, very similar to what Snowflake announced. Snowflake announced a product called SnowConvert AI, which is an AI agent, a free data migration tool, and Databricks has something called Lake Bridge. There's a reason why it's called Lake Bridge, because this is a product which is built on an acquisition Databricks did in February 2025 called Blade Bridge. Like Snowflake, LakeBridge also uses AI. It's AI powered. It uses LLMs to do the data migration from products like BigQuery, Synapse, Redshift, Snowflake, Teradata, Netezza, Vertica, a number of databases that you would expect in the analytical space. It allows you, like Redshift, to take that data and migrate it into Databricks SQL. But what LakeBridge does is very, very interesting. Because it is LLM powered, the first thing that it does is it says that, like any other product, I'm going to go understand the source a bit better. So I'm going to go profile that source and create sort of a map of the usage of the source systems, look at the metadata, and then it starts a code conversion process. But what it does, because it's AI powered, so it uses some technology that comes out of Mosaic AI Labs. And one of those technologies is called TAO, TAO, which stands for Test Time Adaptive Optimization. Is one of the many optimization techniques that is used by reinforcement learning. A lot of reinforcement learning requires you to provide a set of labeled data. These are my questions for this use case, and these are the answers I expect. And you use this labeled data to refine how the model will improve its accuracy. But sometimes you may not have labeled data. So what Tao does is it uses the usage, the history, the heuristics of the sources, and it then starts creating multiple versions of responses. So as it's doing the code conversion from, let's say, Oracle into Databricks, it sends a number of different iterations to a model called Databricks rewards model. That model then scores and ranks different options it has that AI has generated, and then it picks the highest ranking response, and it uses that to actually execute the code conversion. And so the code and the data gets migrated, and then all the bells and whistles that you would expect, such as making sure the row counts are the same, making sure the data quality rules were adhered to, security, compliance, all of those things are then rolled into LakeBridge. And with that, what Databricks is saying is that 80% of your source can be automatically migrated into Databricks SQL using LakeBridge. And so you're only left with 20% of the work, which is pretty manageable. And you can use only 20% of the time to finish off your data migration. The idea, of course, is to get data into Databricks from other sources. With that, let's move on to the next category, which is data governance. Unity Catalog has become the crown jewel of Databricks. If you look at what's going on in the entire stack, we see there's a lot of standardization that's going on. For example, Iceberg, Parquet has already standardized the storage infrastructure table format. You see above MCP server, A2A protocol. You see, again, a lot of standardization is coming in the picture. The only place where we don't see any standardization is in the metadata layer. So whoever controls the metadata layer has a huge advantage over others. And this is where Unity Catalog becomes a linchpin into Databricks strategy. But Unity Catalog was built for Databricks, whose default table format was Delta Lake. So, so in some ways, it was a little bit off the mainstream because Iceberg has been adopted by every other vendor, whether it's Google's BigQuery or Cloudera or IBM, and then all the other ones we mentioned, Fivetran, Confluent, all of these have standardized on Iceberg. Last year, as you know, Databricks bought Tabular, and with that, they got the people who created Iceberg, they got that talent in-house. So this year, what they have announced is that Unity Catalog now has support for Iceberg version 3. And with version 3, they now basically get some of the new bells and whistles, like a variant data type that has been added into Iceberg, but with support for Iceberg v3, now a analytical engine can write to both Delta and Iceberg and read from it at the same time. So they're bringing this duality right into Unity Catalog. The second thing you see here is Iceberg REST Catalog API, or commonly known as IRC. Any engine, compute engine that is IRC compatible can now easily query or write to Databricks data and in either Iceberg or Delta. In fact, even Delta sharing, which is the open standard for sharing data. In fact, we didn't talk about this, but I mentioned the SAP Databricks integration. The protocol that moves metadata or data between the two systems is Delta Share. So going back to the governance space, Delta Share is now also can also expose Iceberg tables to the consumers of the marketplace. That is a very big topic for Databricks. So those are some announcements. Now, another one that I have in between that you can see here is called Unity Catalog Metrics. Ironically, Snowflake announced exactly the same capability, but when you look into the details, they diverge. On the high level, they're exactly the same. So what did Snowflake announce and what did Databricks announce? In Snowflake, when you create a table, you start giving your schema definition, you create table, and here are my columns and my data type. You now have an ability to say metrics, and you can define all your formulas for your business unit right there. For example, net promoter score is this column minus that column, or whatever is the formula. Your net profit is your cost minus expenses, or whatever it is. So you can define the metrics right in the schema. That is Snowflake's uh, announcement of metrics. What Databricks has announced is metrics now exist in Unity Catalog. And just like Snowflake announced how Sigma, Hex, and some of these partners can use Snowflake metrics, same thing was announced. Tableau, Power BI, Sigma, Hex can use Unity Catalog metrics, and I read those metrics when a user says, show me the net profit in this region for this SKU. It can bring that metrics from Databricks through Unity Catalog metrics, and it can utilize that. So very similar announcements, but very different in their execution. That takes us to the next category, which is the mega category of analytics and AI. Everything that we've talked about to this point, we've been seeing that there's a lot of AI being infused into different aspects of Databricks. But here comes yet another new term. It's called agent bricks. Agent bricks is an agent development lifecycle system, end-to-end lifecycle system. But but it's declarative, although we don't use the word declarative here. It's natural language based, where you tell uh, agent breaks what you want, and then it just goes and starts building the agent out for you. So I have an example for this. Let's say in my organization, I want to research what my competition is doing. What is the latest, some new documents or white papers they have put on their website. So I want to build an agent that goes, crawls the internet for certain websites or websites that I don't even know exist. It finds material that is similar to what I'm doing, analyzes it, summarizes it, uh, creates me a nice deep research report and with tables and a lot of analysis. And then all of a sudden, I show up in the morning and I have the latest research competitive intelligence report on my desktop. So now to do this kind of research agent, all I need to do in Agent Bricks is I need to tell it what I want. It will automatically pick the right LLM or the right foundation model to go and find out uh, what sites exist and then crawl them and summarize them. But then, how do I know the output is correct? So, because automation is built into agent breaks through and through, so what it does is it uses a concept called LLM as a judge, and it starts evaluating the responses and tries to correct any hallucinations or errors and improve the accuracy of that. And then I say, okay, now I'm ready for this. So I need to deploy it. But before I even deploy it, I gave you an example of a research agent. But that research agent may actually consist of multiple sub-agents or multiple agents. Like there's one that does crawling, another one that does summarization, another one that checks for compliance, another one that creates my report deliverable. So when you have multiple agents, they need to communicate with each other. Agent Breaks has that multi-agent orchestration. These agents are talking to different tools like a web browser or a database. So for that, Agent Breaks comes with a built-in MCP server. So that is Agent Breaks. It does all my agent steps in an automated fashion and then makes the whole task of building agents quite easy. I already mentioned Mosaic AI is where a lot of these technologies are available. Mosaic AI has a library of um, of LLMs and other models like multimodal foundation models. This year, Databricks also added Gemini into its list of models that are available. Final piece is AI BI Genie. We talked about Genie when I mentioned Databricks One. It is the natural language AI assistant. And you see Genie has been built into pretty much every component. So you can go to this box on top, right hand top of whatever service you are using, and you can start asking natural language questions. AI BI Genie will understand your request, and it will then deliver the output to you. Something that's new in Genie this year is that deep research has been added. So just like you got deep research from ChatGPT or from Gemini or Claude or Grok 3, now that deep research capability has been added into Genie. That takes us to the very last category, and this is of applications. Yet again, we see Snowflake and Databricks on the same path to co-locate your data, which they already have, with the applications in right next to data. By being next to data, you get so many advantages. First of all, there's less hops, so latency can be better. Secondly, you can apply using Unity Catalog, you can apply consistently the policies, enforce them, and also from Databricks and Snowflake's point of view, you increase the compute cycles, and so it's good for them to have the applications coexist with data. But they again go different routes when it comes to implementation. In Snowflake, it's called native apps. Native apps are primarily ISVs, like relational AI, that are sitting like a sidecar or sitting inside Snowflake, but in a Kubernetes container called Snowpark Container Service. Databricks is a very different ballgame. Databricks apps are basically business logic. And these, so it's not an ISV, it is an organization that says, I want to build I want to build some application to do my business operation, but I want to build it inside of Databricks. Databricks showed us demos in the keynote with their partners. One of them is Superblocks, but they have a number of partners, Lovable and some other ones. Also, you can choose what framework you want. For example, you can choose Streamlit, which incidentally is owned by Snowflake, or Plotly Dash. So you can choose your framework. You can choose the tool. For the demo that we saw was Superblocks was using the example of creating a supply chain app, and and in Superblocks it does calls. It's integrated. It does calls to Databricks SQL, to Genie, to LakeFlow, and basically it can get data from different places. And using Superblock as a front end, you can create a Databricks app. Then you can click on a button. You can say, I'm now ready to deploy it. You have to go through a few more steps of assigning the right roles and permissions, and voila, your app is now running inside Databricks. So that takes us to the end of all the new announcements. I hope you found this useful. If you stayed till the very end, thank you very much for staying on. Until next time, take care. See you. Bye bye.